Thanks for tuning in to the first of my conservation conversations, where I interview people in the climate change and conservation fields about their careers. I'm doing this to show the different types of jobs available for those interested in related fields. Without further ado, let's get into the interview. Firstly, can you introduce yourself and give a brief explanation about your current job?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, my name's Stephanie Haan-Amato. I am the Communications and Development Director for a nonprofit organization called Environmental Education of New Mexico. So we also go by EENM for short, and we are the state affiliate of the North American Association for Environmental Education. So we're the network for environmental and outdoor education throughout the state of New Mexico. And we work to foster connections among related organizations and entities and bring diverse people together for collaboration. We also speak up for the interests of kids and educators in our state, especially related to learning about environmental protection and getting more youth outside. And those things are closely linked. So in order to care about protecting the natural world, young people need to spend time outdoors and need to learn about environmental issues. So research shows that outdoor education is particularly effective at fostering care for the natural world when conservation and ecology, those kinds of learning objectives are specifically included in the lesson. Although just being outside does tend to increase appreciation for the environment. It also provides a whole host of evidence-based benefits for kids, including improved health, academic performance, motivation, and interest in civic engagement. So as the communications and development director at EENM, I have two main roles. First, I communicate about our work through all of our communications avenues. So that includes like our social media, our website. We have a newsletter that goes out monthly electronically. And I also try to get as much news coverage in newspapers and television spots and radio, et cetera. That way, outdoor and environmental learning gets more recognition, and that, to raise awareness with the general public. And then second, I work to secure funding for the organization. We all have to have funding to do what we're doing. So that way we can keep our doors open and continue with our mission. So this involves fundraising with individual donors, member organizations, as well as seeking grants from foundations and agencies. I have a volunteer role as well. I also volunteer on the board and on the steering committee of a statewide climate organization called 350 New Mexico. That's the US state affiliate of the International Climate Advocacy Organization called 350.org. The name 350, that's a reference to 350 parts per million. So that's the safe concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And we're now at 412 parts per million. At 350 New Mexico, we advocate for a just transition. So making sure that it's fair for all to a renewable energy economy. We support state legislation that will reduce and eventually eliminate our state's dependency on the fossil fuel industry. We organize events such as an electric vehicle car show, climate rallies, and we communicate about the climate crisis. Oh, and recently we've been developing a climate unit for middle school students. For that role, I also help with the website and some of the social media there at 350 New Mexico.
Well, cool. Um, so what sparked your interest in conservation or the environment?
Oh, good question. I'm not sure that there was like one event that led me to work in environmental education in order to inspire others to want to conserve the natural world. I think my childhood of growing up on 5 acres of wooded land in Florida and spending lots of time in those woods and at the ocean and traveling to national parks and other amazing places really made me appreciate the beauty of nature. And plus, growing up, my family was aware of environmental issues. I remember like we recycled before anyone I knew, and we did install a solar water heater on our roof before anyone else I knew. So Yeah, I think that awareness was there. And then as I got older and I learned more about the scale of the environmental issues we face, I knew that I wanted to do something to help. And I've carried a sense of alarm about the loss of biodiversity on Earth and climate change for decades now. And although that seems overwhelming sometimes, it does help to know that I'm doing what I can. And also, very importantly, it helps to work alongside a community to enact change.
Okay. So, did you study environmental science in college or as part of an advanced degree?
Yes.
Okay. And then, uh, what and where did you study, and how did you choose what to study?
Oh, good question. So I have a bachelor's degree in environmental studies and biology from the University of California at Santa Cruz. It is an excellent program, and the campus is incredibly beautiful. I'd highly recommend it. I found it while I was living in San Diego and taking classes at City College, a community college. I took some time off after high school. I traveled and then I got an associate's degree first. And that allowed me to explore classes and figure out what really interested me. And after loving all my science classes, I realized that I wanted to study science with a focus on environmental conservation. The counseling center at City College helped me find the program at UCSC, and I transferred there as a junior. So that was great. The UC system is a little bit pricey, so it's nice to get in for only a couple of years and not have to pay quite as much. I also have two master's degrees from New Mexico State University. The first is in wildlife science. I also have a minor in experimental statistics there. And my second master's is in education.
What was your career path after college?
Okay, yeah. So I'd like to say that I had it all figured out and I took a career path that I had charted out, but my path has been more of a winding one. My initial career idea was to become a conservation biologist. While studying at UCSC, a couple of my professors gave me the chance to be an undergraduate teaching assistant in their classes. That was restoration ecology and conservation biology. And that was when I first realized that I love connecting young people with the environment. And I say young as a relative term. Most of the college students I worked with there were only a little younger than me at the time. So then after finishing UCSC, I took a year off. I worked seasonal jobs at national parks and in national forests, studying trees, amphibians, and small mammals. Really fun. And then I came to Las Cruces, New Mexico in 2002 on a research assistantship to study salamanders for my master's research program. At the time, that was known as the Fishery and Wildlife Sciences Department at New Mexico State University. I studied the habitat requirements of a threatened species of salamander, and the aim there was to aid in the conservation of that species. I loved it. I found it really interesting and fun, from the experimental design to the field work, and of course, interacting with and learning more about the salamanders, which are super cute. And while I was in the program, I also worked as a teaching assistant for some undergraduate classes. One of them was a wildlife field methods class, and we took students outside to conduct some field work to study a variety of the organisms in the area. And I really found myself like just naturally going above and beyond to develop like really cool learning activities that would engage the students while they learned, and kind of take it above what was already developed, kind of the canned activities that were used in the course previously. And it was really fun and rewarding for me. I saw that what I was doing was really inspiring the students to get excited about the content and want to learn more. Let's see. And then after finishing that master's degree, I worked on a long-term ecological research project for a year in Las Cruces. I really enjoyed that too. During that time though, I really kept thinking back to my experiences as a teaching assistant. And I also began to think that while adding to our natural world, like to understand the natural world with science is really important. Scientists do already understand quite a bit about environmental issues and how to save life on Earth. And the more pressing thing in my mind at the time was to make everyday people see and care about the issues. So I decided to go back for a second master's degree in education so that I could learn how to be a good teacher in order to educate young people about science and the environment. So I started as a high school biology teacher at a local charter school for a few years. And I loved it. I loved the kids, and I felt really good about the way I was able to engage them in hands-on science and learning about environmental issues and environmental justice. During that time, though, I took my students on a field trip to a nearby nature park that was run by a nonprofit science education organization, and I just adored the activities that the staff did with my students. It was a really neat program. So I kept my eye on that organization. I thought I'd really love to work there. And when a position opened up with them, I jumped at it and I was so happy to land the job. I worked there for 9 years and eventually became the assistant director of that organization. And that shifted my duties from doing more of the hands-on education with kids to doing more of the communications, fundraising, administration. And I still love that place and support it and volunteer with them, even though I've now moved on. A little less than a year ago, I randomly saw an announcement for the position with EE&M. It came through my email inbox, and I wasn't looking for a job, but I couldn't stop thinking about the opportunity to have a bigger impact for kids all across New Mexico. And in the end, I decided that I couldn't pass it up. I took a shot and applied and was lucky to get the job. And now I use my communication and fundraising skills, which I did not study in school, by the way, to advocate for all kids in New Mexico so that they can have regular access to the outdoors and environmental learning. And that's not only good because, like, in terms of inspiring people to care about the natural world, it's also an issue of equity and justice because all kids really deserve to have the health benefits and the meaningful experiences that come from those programs in environmental education.
So my next question is, what's the most interesting or exciting thing you've done in your career? So it sounds like you've done a lot. Is there one thing that sticks out as your favorite?
Oh, great question. There are really two things that stand out to me. So maybe I can just talk about them both really quickly. The first is that for 5 years, I led the development of a free series of climate change units for middle and high school students for the USDA Southwest Climate Hub. So these are lessons that were developed with really easy to use hands-on instructions with simple supplies that teachers either have in their classroom probably or can just pick up at any household goods stores. And so teachers from all over the US have used the activities. They're very hands-on and fun, which is hard because teaching the abstract topic of climate change can be kind of challenging. People don't understand why they need to care about it right now. So these activities made it really relevant and relatable in ways like students use their own laps, like they're sitting down and they use their laps to model the greenhouse effect with a space blanket and a thermometer. Another fun activity, they play a board game to learn about the accumulation of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So they're just really fun and engaging ways that students can relate to climate change. The second thing that comes to mind is the one that I'm working on right now. It's happening right now. It's in my current role. And along with our community and another wonderful organization that we partner with, we're helping to champion some state legislation. And this is really exciting. It would establish an outdoor learning program at our state's public education department. And if this is realized, then all the kids in New Mexico will have equitable access to outdoor learning. So it was a priority that our environmental education community here in New Mexico identified through more than 3 years of meetings and discussions with a lot of diverse individuals. They represent like a wide variety of entities from schools like all the way to like environmental justice organizations. And as of today, the bill has passed unanimously in its first committee in the state Senate, and we're waiting for it to be heard in its next committee. If it's passed by both the House and Senate and then is signed by the governor, then it will be a law. And like I said, a really important first step in realizing the access that we want all kids to have to outdoor and environmental learning. So it feels really rewarding to be working on something so big and with such important implications.
That's really cool. My next question is, what do you think is the most important thing for people to know about either what you do specifically or environmentalism in general?
Ooh, environmentalism in general. Let me answer that part of the question. In terms of environmentalism, I want to stress the necessity of collective action. So it's really important to take all of the individual actions that we can as people, like especially the ones that have been identified as having the biggest impact on the amount of greenhouse gases that we emit personally. And that's like things like having one fewer child, living car free or switching to an electric car, avoiding flying, especially overseas, using renewable energy, switching to a plant-based diet. A lot of people also like to talk about the 5 R's of sustainability, like refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot, meaning composting in that order. So that's the order that they're most important. And all of that is wonderful and worth applauding. It is not enough though. That's just us as individuals being good citizens of planet Earth because we care. The changes we need are at the systems level. So that would include things like a full shift to renewable energy, the electrification of everything that requires energy to run. And in order to save the planet, it's going to take all of us working together. We have to demand that corporations and our government make the changes we need at the scale we need. So I'd say to folks who are interested in working on this, join an organization, participate in any marches or rallies that you can, write letters to the editor of your local paper, participate in government, both at like your local level and the state and also at the national level. Do whatever else you can to use your voice and say that your future is more important than corporate profits. What we've seen lately with the climate movement in the last few years, and it's really inspiring, it's that the youth voice, that is what is really moving the needle. Young people, you all are articulate, you're passionate, you're not willing to stand aside and let older people continue to trash your future. So good for you. Please keep it up. I think another crucial component of the youth movement that I've seen is that you've really centered the voices of frontline communities, especially Black, Indigenous, people of color, those who have felt the brunt of the impacts of what wealthy, like mostly white people have done to the environment. And it's taken the environmental movement far too long to start moving away from white supremacy culture, and we're still not there yet. So please, as young people, please ensure that your actions don't perpetuate those white supremacy values and keep centering the values of people who don't get heard.
My next question is related to the last one. Just, do you have any advice for high school or college students looking to pursue environmental science or some related topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So environmental science, that's a really incredibly important field. I guess I'd just say while you're in school, look for the classes and the topics and the experiences that you find most exciting and pursue those. Also, be humble. Like that's something that is hard to be as a person. It's hard to admit when you don't know something, but taking the time to learn more is when you'll really grow. So yeah, just admit when you're not sure about something. It's okay, and take the time to figure it out. Be open and flexible. Your dream career may be something that you don't even know exists right now. we need people who are doing it all, working on the science, communicating the science to decision makers, arguing about the science in front of a court of law, to name just a few pathways that you could take with that. And I think maybe most importantly, don't work in isolation. Find your group, not to get too dark, but caring about the environment can be an incredibly sad and seemingly hopeless pursuit at times. So just know that there is hope and there are solutions, and be sure that you have a network to lift you up and that you can uplift in order to work together for those solutions.
So earlier you mentioned that you'd been to a lot of places and worked in a lot of places that really shaped your views on the planet. Is there one place that inspired you more than any others?
Oh my goodness, that's hard. I think though, the one that jumps out just at the, at the forefront of my mind is Sequoia National Park. Just seeing the giant sequoias and knowing that they're so ancient. I actually got to study them and measure them. And so my job was literally being a tree hugger. It was amazing. I was working for the USGS at the time. And I really do think, just making sure that we have the opportunity to connect with ancient wild places like that. It does more for our ability to not only cope with stress, but also leads hopefully to us taking action to protect them.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. This was great.
You bet, Jack. Thank you. And good luck to you and all those who are interested in working towards a better planet.
Thanks for sticking around till the end. To learn more about environmental education of New Mexico, you can visit their website, which is eenm.org. You can also visit their Instagram, which is at EnviroEDNM, or their Twitter and Facebook, which are at New Mexico EE. To learn more about 350 New Mexico, you can visit their website, which is 350newmexico.org, or their Facebook and Twitter, which is at 350NM. Thanks for tuning in, and subscribe for more conservation conversations.